Let's get straight into this. The quicker we do, the quicker I can get back to playing Elden Ring. For anyone who doesn't play video games, this is Mesmer the Impaler from Elden Ring. He's one of the main story mode bosses and has been all over the marketing for this game. He's tall, pale, lanky, and has little pet snakes. I drew this before the game came out, so I did what I could with the small amount of references I had. I made sure to add those key elements that made him look like himself. The snake crown, red cloak, chainmail armor, the winged shoulder pads. As long as the bigger aspects of him are present, it'll end up looking like him in the end. The initial idea I was thinking of was having the snake pounce forward towards screen. I was going for that get over here like Scorpion from Mortal Kombat, but as I drew, I wasn't quite liking it, so I scrapped it altogether and went with an attack he uses in the trailer. It's this sort of fireball technique. I gotta be honest, drawing this piece was kind of a struggle. I knew I wanted more of a painterly look by the end, but I wasn't sure how much detail I should be putting into the line work if most of it was gonna be covered up and drawn over anyways. Here I started working on the face, and I think I come back to it and do it a couple times because I'm not entirely happy with it. This hand that's stretching out turned out wickedly. I like how angular and bony it kinda looks. It definitely adds to his personality. From here, I'm laying down the rest of the clothes, still keeping it very loose. I knew I wanted the picture to be framed by the fireball and the flames that are bursting out. I also wanted it to be a little more graphic and simple compared to the character himself, just like how animes do FX. I added back in the snake and had him coil around, making it loop and point to the center of the drawing. Here, I kinda got ahead of myself and started doing the line work with black. You'll see I don't really go too far with it before I delete it. I realize my face and helmet lack a bit of structure, so I redraw the rough skeleton again and lock down the correct placements. I'm usually not afraid to just rework something if it doesn't look right. I could see this mistake because I kept coming back to this piece, so I would constantly have fresh eyes on it. So it was easy for me to see where I had made mistakes. I was trying to get him to look a little more ominous, so I blacked out the eye sockets. He's starting to feel the way I want him to, but I still have some reservations. At this point, I wasn't entirely sure about it still, but I was like, f it, let's ink, see where it goes. Again, I got kind of hasty and I started doing the clean blacks, but then quickly switched to doing another cleaner rough. This is because I wanted no room for error when I actually do ink. I don't really want to be guessing. The roughs before just didn't give me enough information to properly ink. And as soon as I do get these roughs set, the inking starts coming in nicely. I started adding in these heavier blacks, and that's when I started feeling confident in the direction this piece was taking. All the heavier blacks I added are on the right side because the fireball will be lighting up most of the left side. It's something to keep in mind even right now in the inking stage, keeping in mind our lights even before we start coloring or adding them anyways. This piece really did make me realize I don't enjoy drawing snakes. It took me a few tries before I got to a decent looking snake face. It was quite a struggle. The fireball might be my favorite part of this drawing. As wild and sporadic as the design looks, I kept in mind the simple design principles of big, medium, and small to keep it appealing. From here, we're gonna get into the coloring process, just adding in some base colors and some color variations. If you're not familiar with the game series, it's a part of a genre called the Souls types, famously developed by a studio called FromSoft, who are known for making their games insanely difficult. Some might even call it unfair and sometimes bullshit. I am definitely in the opposite camp of get good scrub. These games are challenging, but they're not unbeatable. If you enjoy adapting, learning, and figuring out your opponents, you'll love these types of games. You just get that hit of dopamine when you beat a boss in this game. It's like that neuron activation when you overcome a challenge. It's also the reason why I enjoy playing fighting games. Plus, I'm a big fan of dark fantasy, and Elden Ring to me is just Berserk of the Wild. This is literally me. So, going back to the drawing, I've set a light purple multiply layer over top of everything. This way, all of the local colors will have a bit of harmony together. I'll do another deeper shadow layer and then followed by a third, even deeper shadow layer afterwards. I usually tend to follow the forms when I'm adding these shadows and lights, but I'll also break out of reality and make some fun shapes that look cool sometimes. I'm not here to be beholden to reality. I erased that earlier light purple multiply layer because I wanted the side of the hand lit and not in shadow. Doing it this way gives me a nice little gradient. The fireball is pretty hot, so I added a bunch of glow and highlights to the ball and the character. Some extra debris and ashes in the background for some texture, and then to end off this part of the process, I added a bit of purple rim light. This way that shadow side pops a little. From here, I'll just merge everything down and paint over it, adding in small details like the chainmail, strands of hair, and some bounce light. At this point, I could finesse it for hours, but I keep it pretty minimal. But yeah, for a piece I wasn't entirely confident with at the start, this turned out much better than expected. If you enjoyed this talk along, you already know what to do. That's enough of me yapping. See you on the next one.